Hello, my name is Bob Ganzak, and welcome to MotivationU the Podcast. Welcome to MotivationU the Podcast. My name is Bob Ganzak, and we have brought him back for week 2. A lot of jokes, a lot of funny. Oh, desperate Bob, you need it. Now, I'll tell you the honest truth. I had so many questions. I enjoyed talking to you, John Spence, so much last week that I never got to my questions.
I know, we had fun.
It was like two guys meeting for the first time with perfect haircuts, just absolutely hitting it off. And I was like, wow, I really like this guy. And then I thought, we just spent an hour talking, and I never even got into anything about leadership. So
We'll try to focus on that today then.
welcome, John. Welcome back.
It's good to be back, Bob. Thank you.
Have you had a good week?
Had a wonderful week, absolutely.
So what is the highlight of your week? Now, you were telling me about your traveling, but what has been the highlight of your week?
Very cool. Highlight of the week. Let me see. Got a new coaching client that I'm very excited about.
Cool.
Playing with a new puppy. I've got a new puppy, so we spend a lot of time with that. She's just an average week, doing some writing and things like that, working on a new book.
That's fantastic. I had so many people that reached out to me after the program last week, and people that I hadn't spoken to in years, and they said, "Wow, that is so cool that guy reads so many books."
Ah, geez. Well, yeah.
Amazing.
Well, don't forget it's part of my job.
Yeah.
And then I'm very disciplined in making sure, like I was telling you this morning, I spent an hour and a half reading before I got here, and I'll spend another hour today, and then at night I read, but I don't read any business stuff in my home.
Okay.
So the 100 business books a year is during the day. In the evening I'm reading history or poetry or something spiritual or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So no business once I get home.
Wow, that's interesting. Do you ever read anything that is like Grisham or any books that are more entertainment focused rather than?
I rarely do.
Uh-huh.
I sat down and read, this is years ago, Lord of the Rings without basically getting off the couch for 4 days.
Wow.
But I just read a series of books by a really good friend of mine who's a philosopher, that's his job. He's a professional philosopher. And had it not been him, I wouldn't believe Tom Morris is his name. One of his books changed my life, a book called True Success. And he said he was sitting at his breakfast table and this story started coming to him. And he said, I just sat down and started writing. I didn't know where it was going. It was like a movie. I'm following it. 1 million words, over 1 million words, 7 books, all at 400, 500, 600 pages.
Wow.
So I had no idea where the story was going. It all just came to me. It's set in Egypt in the early 1900s. It's a great, great, great story. But had it not been Tom, I would never believe that someone would sit down and write 1 million words without thinking
Wow.
of the characters or anything.
Just going.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned Tom. I was going through your blog over the past week, and you relate to Tom Peters a lot.
Yep.
And that was one of the. When did Tom Peters write all of his books?
He, In Search of Excellence came out in the early 80s. I know because In Search of Excellence was one of the first business books I ever read.
Myself included.
I'll just follow this, and it worked very, very well. A very quick story about Tom Peters. I was years ago, probably 15 years ago, I was flying to Singapore and ended up in first class sitting next to him. And I read every one of his books. I'm a massive fan. But I've sat next to celebrities before. They don't want to be bothered.
So I looked at him and I said, "Hey, Mr. Peters, I've read all your books, blah, blah, blah." And he goes, "What do you do?" And I go, "Well, I do kind of the same stuff as you." "Really?" He goes, "What's your goal?" I go, "To be as good or better than you." And he kind of laughed. "Good luck, son." 5 years ago, I was named number 8 in the world for innovative thinking by a thing called the Thinkers 50, which is like the Academy Awards of management consulting. I'm sitting at the head table to be number 8. Who's sitting next to me? Tom Peters, getting his lifetime award. And I relayed the story to him. He goes, "Holy blank, you did it." And and he sent me a hand-signed book saying, "Congratulations, you caught me."
That's too good.
But yeah, it's
So my favorite book from his is A Passion for Excellence.
oh yeah, great book.
When he tells that story about walking into the factory and moving the manager's desk out into the factory,
Yeah.
and putting the break room into his office because it was the only place that had air conditioning. that to me is that's the epitome of what we do,
Right.
what you and I do, and what we talk to people about. Because and I thought that was just such a great story. I absolutely love
I
that
don't.
book.
Did he coin the term MBWA, management by walking around?
I believe so.
I believe so too. Yeah.
And when I ran my radio stations, that is what I did. I mean, people would, all you do is walk around all day. They're right.
Right. Yeah, if you have under 200 employees, in my opinion, you should know everybody's name, their spouse's name, their kid's name, and visiting them, seeing them at least once a week or something. If you're all in the same office, getting up and walking around, checking on people, how you doing, what's happening. It surprises me how many leaders, even with 180 or so, don't know anybody's name.
Yep.
Like these people keep, again, the people are your entire business, period. It doesn't matter what you sell or what you do. If you don't have great people, you don't have a great company. And as a leader, your number one job is take care of your people.
Yep. Make a difference.
Right.
Make a difference all the time. So, this is all, we're going down that track again. Just having a conversation. How do you choose a mastermind group?
Oh, I'm very lucky. I've had one. Well, let's go back. I had one in college called my study group.
Okay.
And I went to the journalism school, and we graduated the top 5 at the journalism school. It's not because any of us were brilliant; it's because we helped each other. You read chapters 1 through 10, you read 6 through 11, you go see the TA, and together we were a powerful group. I started as soon as I got out, a mastermind of young CEOs. Fast forward today, I've got about 15 or 18 CEOs here in Gainesville that run local companies that once every 45 days or so, we get together and push each other, read books, book assignments, all that stuff. So the way I did it is I went to a couple people I really, really respected that I knew I could learn from. And I said, "I'd like to start this group." They said yes. I said, I'd like you now to invite someone you are impressed with that I don't know, so we can expand this circle, so we can find some new folks. And we've got rules. You've got to do your homework. You can't miss more than 3 meetings. We don't drink during our mastermind groups. We go out once a year, but we get an Uber or something so everyone's safe. But it's a serious group, and we help each other with our businesses. So it's something we put together.
How many people?
We've got about 18. And
What is the max that you would have?
I think we're close there. And the reason is all of us are traveling. So we get about 12 people, 14 people at most meetings. A lot of folks now, we brought the group down a little bit, their spouses come. Because for a lot of them, like my wife, she's my business partner. So having her there to discuss our business and help each other has been very, very powerful.
Do you let people Zoom in if they can't make it to the meeting?
Well, now we didn't used to because none of us use Zoom.
Right.
Now, most of our meetings are on Zoom now, and which has allowed us to do something really cool is invite guest speakers.
Okay.
Because in the past, you'd have to fly somebody in or whatever. So we've had Tom Morris that I talked about, other people Zoom in and do a half an hour of talking, and then we have a discussion around that. So that's really added a lot of extra value.
That's a question that I get a lot from young people is, how do I search out a mastermind group, and what type of group should I get involved in? And that's why I was asking that question.
Yeah, and the other thing would be mentors. Is, I think mentors, well, I don't think, totally changed my career, totally changed my life. I mentor some folks now, and you'll get a kick out of this, and I'm getting myself in trouble, is people ask me to mentor them all the time, and I say, I'd love to. I'd absolutely love to. What do you want to focus on? Let's just say they say leadership. I go, okay, I'm going to assign 3 books to you on leadership. Leadership Challenge, I go through couples. I need you to read all of them. I want you to do a book report on each. Come to breakfast. You're going to make a presentation on all 3 books, and I'm going to ask you questions because these are books I know well. I know the authors. And if you can pass that test, you will become one of my mentees, and I'm happy to help you.
We throw that out there just too often.
Yeah, well, no one will do the work.
Yeah.
I've got 2 people. I've probably only had 5 people I've mentored in my entire career because people aren't doing it. And here's my thing is I'm happy to do it. As an executive coach, you and I charge a fair amount of money to do that. As a mentor, I'm happy to do it if you do the work. And almost no one will read 3 books and do a book report.
Still, my biggest frustration is you're working with somebody and they don't put in the effort. And,
Yeah.
And I've walked away. Just, I don't know. I can't tell you, John, that I'm thinking in my head that it's my reputation, but someplace back there it says, and I'm being transparent here, someplace when I walk away, I say, I don't want to trust my reputation to this person.
Oh,
who's giving
absolutely.
the effort.
Yeah, I get people from time to time that say, hey, John, let's partner. Let's start, work on our businesses together. And I have a little bar there that says, I won't work with you if I wouldn't work for you. And so I've got to have enough respect. And I've got partners in New Zealand. I've got some folks in Canada I work with that I truly respect and admire and can learn from, and they have the highest level of integrity. I would quit my job. I would quit being a consultant and go work for them. That's for me, that's a really high bar, but they're people I love and admire.
What are their characteristics that you admire about them? Not to name any of the people, but just what are the things that when you're looking at somebody like that jump out to you?
I'll name the names because they're very close friends. One of them, I'm the godfather of his son. First one is complete honesty and integrity. They're values driven. You know their values. I got a great question a couple of months ago. Someone said, who are the people in your life you trust your life to? That you literally trust your life with? Make a list, then call them and say, hey, I just want you to know. All of those folks are on that list of if I know that if something happened to me, they would do exactly what's right for my family. I have no question about that. They're also all very bright, not geniuses, but they also work really hard on their craft. They read, they study, they learn, and all of them have had some sort of, both of my strategic business partners in New Zealand were both SAS, which is their version of the Navy SEALs. They're very disciplined. They're again, impeccable integrity and honesty. That's the highest one. If somebody has that, the other stuff falls in line.
Yep. Yeah, that is so true. So true. I think I'm thinking back to even my dad's business, a small little print shop and in downtown Detroit, and people came back to him all the time because of what you just said.
Yeah.
Work ethic, he always got the job done, but the integrity and the honesty. If he couldn't get it done, he was going to tell you.
Yeah.
And he would tell you to go to Bland Printing. The guy across the street, he can get it done. I just can't get my presses running that fast to get it done for you.
I had a call yesterday with a potential client, very large client, and he said, Kane, I said, if I can't do this, I will refer you to the best person in the world that can do this. I will be totally honest and tell you what I can do, but if this is out of I'm going to find somebody great for you. Yep. And it's that sort of a belief of always put the customer first, always do what's in their best interest. I won't say first, put your people first, never ever have a customer that treats your people poorly, period. Yeah. But after that, be honest, I'm going to do what's best for you, even if it means I don't get the business.
The story that's in How to Win Friends and Influence People, when Dale Carnegie talks about the gentleman that came into the business and the guy told him, we're not going to do business with you anymore, and he left. And then he talked to his customers, and they said, then he talked to his employees, and he said, that vendor treats us better than anybody else. And the guy called him back in and said, I'll give you your business. Told him why. Because there was one vendor that treated his customers better than anybody else. So he'd do business with that person.
I'm going to throw an idea out here that I think hopefully your listeners will like. It's one of the things I help businesses with is getting close to their customer. So I will tell one of my clients, I'd like you to pick a handful of your top clients. It might be 3 or 4, it might be a couple dozen, it might be a couple hundred, just on the size of the company, and ask them this question. Why specifically do you do business with us? What are the top 3 or 4 reasons? If you ask a whole bunch of your customers that, a pattern will emerge. And that pattern will tell you why they do business with you, why they trust you, why they refer you. And it's basically becomes your brand platform.
Yep.
And the key things for you to continually focus on to get better and better. Because I figure if a whole bunch of your best clients are giving you money for these 3 or 4 things, probably a whole bunch of new clients will probably give you money for the same 3 or 4 things. Fascinating. Most companies won't do it.
You know, when
Why?
you find out what your strengths are,
Yeah.
and then because we want to be ubiquitous, we want to be everything to everybody,
Bad idea.
which is the worst. Thing. You know, find a niche and become an expert at it.
Yeah.
You know, whatever it is.
And that question tells you what your niche is.
Yeah.
That question tells you how you're unique and differentiated in the marketplace and why people value you.
Mm-hmm.
It's but people are, many of the folks I've given this advice to, not clients, just friends, don't want to do it because they're afraid they'll get negative feedback. That's a gift.
Oh, I can learn from that.
Right, I can fix that.
yeah.
You're not happy because of these things? Let me fix that. You happy now? Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Funny how that works.
Going back to Tom Peters, I quoted him last night I was doing a talk on storytelling for the young professionals at the Gainesville Chamber of Commerce,
Excel?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
Excel, yeah.
age 21 to 39. That was just having that in the byline there. I was like, ooh, I mean,
They're younger than my kids.
yeah. and the other thing is none of these folks were alive when I started working.
Yeah, I know, it's
You know,
painful.
you know?
It's really painful.
But it's nice that they asked me to come there. But Tom Peters, when he said, "You are the CEO of Me Incorporated,"
Right, yeah.
and that's what we talked a lot about last night. How do we build our brand? If you're not going to promote yourself, you know, as a young person, who's going to promote you?
Yeah.
Who's going to promote your brand?
And it's very similar to what we were just saying. You can't be all things to all people.
No.
You need to pick a niche. This is my area of
Who you are.
expertise. I have people from time to say, could you help me get a job? And I go, great, I'm happy to. What specifically do you add value in? If I recommend somebody, where are you going to walk in day one to the client, to the new job, and start to add value and give, earn back an ROI immediately?
Yep.
Again, it's challenging for many people to say, this is my area where I'm better than anybody else. I don't like the phraseology, but this is my superpower. It's one of those corporate words I'm not excited about.
What's your superpower, John?
Mine is pattern recognition.
Yeah.
It's,
Following,
yeah.
like Andy Andrews' book, The Noticer.
Yeah,
You notice
exactly.
things, right? Yeah.
Well, I look, and there's 4 P's to expert performance. So you look at an athlete or one of these, Spurrier or somebody else. The first one is passion. You'll never become world class at something unless you're deeply passionate about it. That kind of makes sense.
Right. Mm-hmm.
The next one is persistence. Mm-hmm. And you've probably read Malcolm Gladwell's work, 10 years, 10,000 hours
Yep.
is what they say. The third one is practice, but it's a special kind of practice. It's called deliberate practice. Right. And deliberate practice is you have a coach or a mentor or a colleague or somebody pushing you to constantly get better. Even, I was watching Serena Williams last night, and Spurrier and everybody else, they have coaches.
Yeah.
They're some of the best, but you have someone from the outside, change this a little bit, try that, do that, or just keep them motivated. So you've got 10 years, you're passionate about something, 10 years, 10,000 hours of deliberate practice.
Persistence.
Yep,
practice.
which leads to the 4th P, which is pattern recognition. When you get to a really high level of expertise in a certain area, you see it the way other people don't see it. For example, I don't know tennis very well, but I'm going to imagine that Serena Williams does not see the ball coming at her the way other people do. Yeah. She can probably see the spin on it, read Wilson as it goes by. Yeah. She knows where it's going to land. She knows where back on the court is her opponent's weakness, X, Y, Z. So in my career, people go like, you've read, how many books on leadership have you read? I don't know, a couple of hundred. They go, doesn't it get redundant? I go, yeah, and it's great because I found the pattern. Mm-hmm. I've read, 100 books on this, and 90 of them say the same 3 or 4 things. I'm guessing those are probably good things.
And you mentioned the coaching.
Yeah.
It's the right coaching. I tell a story in almost every session one class about Tiger Woods.
Yeah.
That he used to hit 1,000 balls a day.
Yeah.
With his coach.
With his coach.
And when he made a mistake, his coach didn't wait until he was done swinging, 1,000 shots and said, Tiger, let me go back to number 437. Your hand was a little. When he makes a mistake, he gets coached at that spot.
Well, it's the same thing with leadership. It's
Coaching in the moment.
Okay, yeah, it's like, hey, I saw you make a mistake in the first quarter of the game, and but coach, you didn't tell us until the game was over and we lost it. A good leader too says, let me coach you and help you and assist you, not tell you did this wrong, but here's how you might be able to do it a little bit better.
Yeah. You're watching MotivationU the podcast. My guest here is John Spence. Just absolutely. I feel like, you can't see it. You can't see it, but there's like leadership oozing across this table.
I don't know
I'm trying
about that.
to soak up as much as I possibly can. Back to my questions. What defines a great leader in your eyes?
Well, the definition of leadership to me is when you're a living example of what you hope your people will one day become. That's why I like being a leader in companies, because it forces me to actually be a better person than I am. To push a little harder, to do those sort of things. So, again, I'm going to come back to almost everything for me in leadership is someone who's got strong personal core values, lives them every day with integrity, and treats people with respect and dignity. If you do that, your product is pretty good, your market's okay, all those other things, you're probably going to be fairly successful. But there's a bunch of servant leadership. Mm-hmm. Your job is to be of service, to help other people achieve their dreams, achieve what's important to them, become a leader, and then create other leaders.
How long can somebody go with just the words? They say the right things, they do the right things, but they don't have that core character behind them.
I would have a hard time believing they could say and do the right things without the core. But I was just on the phone yesterday with a really good friend who...
The phony, John.
Oh, the phony. Well,
Yeah,
this is when they're out of integrity. They say something in a meeting and then you watch them do customer services. Well, I'll give you a great example. One of my friends, actually it's Freddie Weeby, that's here involved with Spurrier's. One of the things he used to do is put paper out in front of the front door of the business, some trash. And then he would sit in the parking lot and watch people go by. And if people just stepped over that paper, especially the leaders, just left it there, that was a big indication of the quality of the culture. But if the first person that walked over picked it up, threw it away, he said, all right, they're a little bit. It's called symbol management. Mm-hmm. So when the symbol of customers are important, but for a leader, your number one customer is your people. Yeah. So I've got a great phrase: the customer's experience will never exceed the employee's experience. So do you treat your employees like you would your very, very best customer? Mm-hmm. And so to me, if you don't pick up the phone and answer, if you don't return an email, if you're short or abrupt or rude in a meeting, that is a clear signal of, I don't really respect my people. I would never treat a customer that way. Why would I treat my most important customer that way?
That's fascinating. What is what's the toughest part of leadership in 2022?
Toughest part of leadership, in my opinion, is in many organizations, there's 5 generations under one roof. And you've got people with dramatically different value sets. They grew up in different areas. They've got a different view of the world. So being able to bring all those people together and lead them with their unique motivations, perceptions, value systems, that's a really hard leadership test right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see that all the time, from the standpoint that the generations are like oil and water inside and I applaud the younger generation that tactfully and rightfully so lead, when they get elevated to a position, and lead the older folks.
Well,
lead my generation.
Well, it's there's a couple of companies I work with, Coca-Cola one, they have reverse mentoring. They take the young folks right out of college, and they mentor the senior executives on, this is what my generation thinks, these are our values.
I love it.
And they tell them, go stay involved with your college. Go back, go to games, do stuff. We're going to pay for that. We want you to be around your friends. And for the first couple of years, your job is on technology. I mean, I have to go to my own team. Like, how would I do this on the phone? I don't know how to forward a text,
Yep.
So them reverse mentoring me is fantastic.
Mm-hmm. that is always one of those things that we can learn, but we're not open to it.
Yeah.
You know, so many of us are not open to it. I listen. I used to do all these engagement workshops, and I would hear my generation, just pointing fingers all the time, and talking down about people. But when you look at engagement scores, and you know that the number one driver to engagement is the relationship with your immediate supervisor.
Yeah.
That immediate supervisor needs to go look in the mirror.
It's I got someone responded to one of my blogs yesterday, so I'm going to ask you a question. This will be fun. And I was talking about the key characteristics of leaders and giving some advice. I'm trying to help people be more intentional about their leadership, and we can cover that in a minute. But he was saying, you got a great list here: honesty, integrity, collaboration. Where's confidence? Shouldn't a leader be really confident? And we were talking about competence, this, that, and the other. And they said, competence is one thing, but you've got to be highly confident. What's your response to that? I had a very, very strong response to that.
Well, it's funny that you asked that question because it came up again last night. We were talking about leadership, and they said you had to have confidence. I don't think you do. I don't think you. I like people to have confidence. I want to encourage them. Our first driver in the Dale Carnegie class is building self-confidence. Mm-hmm. That's a huge part to get you to do things that you need to do to be leadership. I know a lot of great leaders that have zero self-confidence, but people will run through the wall for them.
Well, my response was, confidence without competence is a disaster, or is a recipe for disaster. Competence with humility is a recipe for success.
Humility, the one word that comes up more often in classes, that when I ask, let's look at the traits of a great leader. Humble, humility.
Okay, I get to ask you questions now. A new word that's coming up a lot, it's always been there, but is vulnerability. Tell me what what vulnerability means to leadership.
Well, I think it opens up the door to transparency.
Yep. Okay. Good.
When somebody is vulnerable to say that, hey, I don't know everything.
Yeah.
I will try to learn everything. Joking aside, that's why I hired you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's you to do your job. I'm going to watch you, even though, I'm your quote unquote supervisor. I'm going to watch you because I want to learn what you're doing.
Yep.
But I think that's very important, especially to the young generation, is that they don't want somebody that's a know-it-all, especially when they don't know it all.
I was going to say, if you tell somebody you know everything, they know you're lying.
You better know everything.
And it's impossible.
So I love that vulnerability because it makes people real.
Yeah, yeah.
It makes people real. I'm a big Detroit Lion fan, which is like, keep on hitting me in the head. And it's been fun watching this Hard Knocks on HBO. I don't want to watch very much television at all, but I've been watching Hard Knocks because they've been with the Detroit Lions. And I love their coach. I mean, the man's real. I don't care if he wins 2 games or 5 games. He has brought a group of people together that believe in themselves and in what they're trying to accomplish. They still might get beat. There's injuries, there's scheme, and everything else. But to watch the way that he has orchestrated himself, vulnerability, he opens himself up to criticism, and he's okay with it.
As you should be.
It's amazing to me. How do you feel about vulnerability?
I think it's important to a certain level. You don't want someone, who's in the corner sucking their thumb. I got no idea what I'm overwhelmed here. I think you need to be open, transparent as much as possible. I think it goes into a little bit here of what's your philosophy about your relationship with your employees? Mm-hmm. Are they your employees, their people, your team? Do you love them? You like them? Everybody has a different way. So I think the level of vulnerability is in proportion to the closeness you have with your organization. If you really know each other well, higher level of openness and vulnerability and transparency. A lot of people think they have to be tough and strong, like we were saying, command and control. Yeah. I know what I'm doing here. You do it my way. The younger generations, and most of us know they don't, and that's just not a good way to be. So humility, vulnerability, transparency, honesty, integrity. A lot of things change in leadership. Those things never change.
No.
Yeah, those are fundamental.
All the time. We're going to take a short break here. We're going to be right back. This is such a great conversation. I hope anybody that wants to hear about what leadership is about, listen to this man. He shares the truth, and that is something that I love. You don't mince words. Get right to it. Transparent yourself. This is Motivation You, the podcast. We'll be right back.
We still hear it. The sound of victory. The joy of being part of something great. And while things may not be the same right now, we haven't gone anywhere. If you bleed orange and blue, then Meldon Law is the firm for you.
Looking for more reasons to celebrate? We have them here at Celebration Point. Enjoy some of the newest additions to our already celebratory lineup, like Dave & Buster's, Les Macarons, and Prime and Pearl. There's always a reason to celebrate. Join us anytime for any occasion. Celebration Point, where Gators come to celebrate.
Welcome back to Motivation You, the podcast, coming to you live from Spurrier's Gridiron Grill here at Celebration Point inside the coach's podcast room. Sometime I'd like to go up and do this show from Visors, you know.
At the bar.
At the bar. With that bottle of Blanton sitting there.
Talk about transparency.
My guest is John Spence. Absolute. Your blog is John...
johnspence.com blog. Just go to, I don't know, blog. I write the thing. I don't go to it.
I mean, since we met last week, I have gone back. There's like 25 pages of his blog, and every single one of them is just chock full of nuggets of leadership. And other things too, like how to interview people. I'd love to have that discussion because I have my own system, a 4-quadrant system to interviewing people. And
I have a 1-sentence system.
what is your one?
And this is for a fairly senior position, not everybody, but someone will. When I used to interview CEOs to replace companies, and I would ask them this question. Look at the clock, and I'd say, I'd like you to take the next half an hour to 45 minutes, and in as much detail as possible, tell me everything you know about our company, our top 3 competitors, our industry, and where you see it in 5 years.
I like that.
And a lot of them would, I don't know, I go, well, thank you, the interview's over. And I was in my 30s, and they're in their 50s. I'm like, you can't do this to me.
Well, you should have done your homework.
And the ones that say...
when you and I were kids, I mean, we couldn't go to the Encyclopedia Britannica because it was like 2 years old, right? You know?
Well, I'll give you huge props. You know where I went to high school, college, everything. You did a ton of research on me, which scares me. I feel like you're stalking me now. But
well,
you know,
we're friends on Facebook. We got to be good.
Yeah, but I was really impressed. My thing is, you should know as much about the company as the person that's interviewing you.
Amen.
Yeah.
That's true.
If you can't talk about them, their values, go through. I had a call again with a client yesterday. I spent an hour on their website. I even mentioned, I looked at one of their frontline people. I said, I see you've got someone here named Brett Saragusa who's doing this, that, and the other. Is her husband's name Mike by any chance? Because Mike Saragusa is somebody who went to University of Florida, gold medal winner, swimmer. And I mean, no, her husband's name is Brad, but that's, you actually look through our staff? Went, I wanted to know what you all do.
Yeah, where are you from? What you do? I mean, it's at our fingertips now.
Oh, there's no excuse not to know this stuff.
I mean, I'm getting away from LinkedIn because it's become more of a, I don't know, like a stalker's world.
Well, that's how you found me. So.
Freddie.
No, I know it was Freddie. It wasn't LinkedIn.
I don't want anybody to think that I was doing that even
But
in
you
joking.
did read over all my stuff
I did.
and everything.
I did. And I found your page and went through that. But when people, like, somebody reaches out to me and almost I can tell the fake, come on now. And it immediately, as soon as you accept it, there's an in-mail to you selling their wares. First of all, even if they were the greatest in what they did, I'm not going to do business with somebody that tricks me into to doing business with them.
Well, you talked about my blog. I'm fairly active in LinkedIn. Here's my deal on all that. 99% give content. I mean, like, I try never to put anything up that I don't think is good, solid, helpful information. Just give, help people, add value. And then if every now and then, like twice a year, you say, hey, I've got this course coming out, people will handle that okay.
Yeah.
I don't even do that. What I do is just say, as we're doing today, I was recently working with a client doing these sort of things, which says, this is what I do, and I help people do this, but I'm not going to try to say, I'm just going to give you so much darn good content that you say, I think I might want to talk to this guy.
So, true story here.
Yep.
It was 2009, about 2009. I think maybe a little earlier than about 2009. I get a call from my son. My son's now 39, so whatever age he was at the time. He said, Dad, you got to get on this thing called Facebook. All right. And so I was like one of the first adults on Facebook. Now, everybody else's email address was .edu because that's what it was. And I said, Matt, why are you telling, why should I do this? And he said, Dad, you have to market yourself and you're going to have to do this. And I said, but it's all, because when I did do that, I got a lot of feedback that, that's for college kids and everything else. And my son said to me, he said, Dad, the man wants to be a billionaire. The guy that owns Facebook, he said he wants to be a billionaire. And it's not going to work unless he expands the people that are on it. And so I joined. And which, first of all, kudos to my son for having that vision.
I'm really impressed,
for having that vision.
I need to talk to him about who he sees as the next billionaire.
Yeah, himself.
Okay, that's good. I'm happy. I hope he's driven that way, which I'm very proud of him. He has a great company that he's building himself. But anyways, so I started putting, being in the Dale Carnegie world, I started putting a quote up every day. It started with lines from songs that motivated me. And then I just started putting a quote up every day until I got this huge backlash from people saying, what are you trying to tell us what to do? Or, you think you're so this or so that. So I quit. And the reason I tell you this is my boss, Buddy Faulkner at the time, who's passed away, who was the franchisee, he called me into his office. Mm-hmm. And he said, why'd you stop your posts every day? And I said, because I got some negative feedback. And he said, go back to it. Impressive.
So I've done that almost every single day, except for a little 2-month period in 2009, 2010 about, every day since then. Mm-hmm. And because I always feel that I'm not responsible for you, I'm responsible to you. And I'm going to present something out there. What you do with it is up to you.
Right.
But if I was responsible for you, every time I put something out there is what I was doing before. I'd say, are you okay with this? Are you all right with that? And that's poor leadership.
Yeah, agreed.
So I like that you put your content out there for free.
Somebody shot me down the other day, and they were absolutely right. I mean, they were just, I said, I did not think of that. That is an excellent point. I need to rephrase what I wrote there. And I was so incredibly happy to have someone point out that I had not thought something completely through before I posted it. And I've got some folks from all over the world that follow me pretty closely, comment pretty much every time I put something up, and I learn a lot from them.
I do too. I just their comments coming back to me they're welcomed.
So I'm gonna shoot you down here for a second. Not shoot you down, but I did have that tool I really wanted to cover because
I
think it'll help folks.
All right.
So around leadership, when I teach a course on this, one of the things I have people do is create, after a whole bunch of work, their own personal leadership philosophy.
Okay.
Here are the characteristics, the attitudes, the attributes that I want to manifest to be the kind of leader I want to be. So it's my set of leadership values.
All right.
So and this is what I did when I was running large companies. I said, print that out. Then put it in the center of your desk. You could use it as a screensaver now, whatever, but 30 years ago, I printed it out, put it in the center. Every morning you come in, read that. Look at it and say, this is who I'm supposed to be today. This is my framework for who I want to be. At the end of the day, before you leave, read it again and score yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 on how well you did that day. Any place you got a 7 below, come back the next day and work on it. Then I would give it to everyone on my senior team, on our senior team, and say, once a quarter, I want all of you to rate me on a scale of 1 to 10. And it would just have no names. It would just have 110. They could circle it, gave it to someone else, gave me back my scores. Any place I scored below a 7, I went to my staff and apologized and said, I'm not doing a good enough job. I will work on this and try to get better. To me, we all go to these leadership classes. Dale Carnegie did the same thing. Write this list, apply these things, try this. This is a way to hold yourself fully accountable day in and day out to being intentional about the kind of leader you truly want to be. It's one thing to go to class, write it all down. It's another thing to see that thing in your face every day and get those scores of you're a 6 here and go, oh, great, I need to improve there. Here's
what drove you to make that?
I did something when I was running companies that, large companies that I don't know that a lot of other people did, is I would write out on the front of a piece of paper, here's everything I expect from you all. Here's what the key metrics are for the company. Here's our growth. Here's that. I want this kind of accountability, this responsibility. This, as a staff, is what I'm going to hold you accountable for. On the back of the piece was my leadership philosophy. My door will be open. I'll do that. I'll be fair. Here's everything you can expect from me. I'm going to hold you accountable for the front of the page. You hold me accountable for the back of the page. And the reason is I believe really strongly that clear expectations are what create accountability. And if I tell somebody very clearly, this is what success looks like, here how I'm going to measure it, this is what I'm going to hold you accountable for, and they say, I understand it and I accept it, I can hold them at a very high level of accountability. But if you say, you're not doing a great job, well, I just don't feel like you're doing it, you're not trying hard enough, what does that mean? Your numbers are $1 million a month, whatever. You did $750,000 last month. I love you, Bob, you're awesome. Where are we going to find the other $250,000? It's not me versus you. It's me and you versus the very clear
number,
expectations.
facts.
Yeah, facts, data. I don't have to argue emotion. It isn't politics or personality. You either made
You
the
don't
number
like
you
me
did-
because.
Yep, I love you.
Yeah.
But we have to work on this together. And so I've always, my entire career, thought really clear expectations, clarity is something that allows us to operate at a higher level and hold people accountable. You know, a lot of people don't, I don't do it, it's mean.
Yeah.
No, if it's numbers and data and it's qualitative, it's not mean, it's just facts.
No. And I was always, along the line, if you're going to argue the numbers, argue them up front, especially with salespeople. If you don't think you can hit that number, then talk to me at the beginning, not at the end.
Yeah, I have another tool that when we talk about accountability, it's the 4 pieces of paper. That's what I call it. And this is if you and I were to sit down and say, Bob, I'm going to hold you accountable for a pretty big project here. So let's do this. I'm going to go over in great detail what I expect from you. And we'll talk it through and we'll write it down and we'll do it. So, you and I spend an hour talking through and I make it excruciatingly clear. This is the due date. Here's this. So I get 100% clarity. Then I make sure you have appropriate authority and resources. So not only that, but I'm going to give you everything you need and I'm going to give you all the
get it done.
decision making.
Yeah.
Right. So now write that out. And then when I say, all right, Bob, do you agree with this? Yes. Cool. I want you to write it back to me in your own words. Take everything you did and I
like
want
that.
you to write it back to me in your own words. Then we'll go over that. We'll look at it. And then we're going to look at it and we're going to sign it. That's called an accountability agreement. So we've got 100% clarity, appropriate authority and resources, 100% agreement. The next two things, well, here's what happens. At the end of that, you can't go, I didn't think the goals were fair.
Yeah.
You wrote them.
That's my point.
Yeah.
That's my whole point.
You wrote them. I mean, I didn't think I had enough time. You signed off on this. Because I always wanted the bottom of the page, I believe this goal is achievable. I have everything I need. I accept 100% accountability, and then we both sign it. It's not a legally binding contract. It just says we're really clear together. You've said you accept it. I expect you to do it. And I'm going to help you and support you and give you the resources and everything you need. But if you don't achieve it, there will. And I've only had to fire a few people in my entire career, but I've had a lot of people self-terminate. Yeah. You just say, I can't do the job.
I don't have the the wherewithal to stick to that. I want to play too much or whatever. Because you have to be focused.
Yeah.
You have to be totally focused. You write in your blog, in many places I found what is vision.
Mm-hmm.
For a leadership, a leader needs to have clear vision.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about vision. Because that can
be
kind of
good,
get a little foggy.
It's
little
challenging.
pun there.
And when you put vision, mission, values, purpose, all that stuff, it can become very confusing. A lot of people use different terms. What I'm basically saying, and this is from a Harvard study that I love the way they phrased it. You must have a vivid, compelling, and well-communicated vision and strategy for growth. Yeah. And that vision is, here's where I see our company in 3 to 5 years. This is, in as much detail, I like as much. We're going to have these many employees. We're going to have this much revenue. We'll won best places to work. I mean, you look at Spurrier's. Here's the number of tables we want to turn. The number. Freddie just put it up. Here's how many people we've served. Here's how much stuff we've done. Here's all our goals. Best places to work. So it's this idea of this is where we're going because I want people to be excited. Yeah. I think level 2 in leadership is helping the person understand how their personal goals align with the goals of the organization. So my personal vision, if I follow the vision of the company, it's going to help me personally in my own vision of growing my career, learning, taking care of my family, whatever it might be. When those two things are aligned, now you've got a highly motivated staff.
I love that because a lot of people, when they hear the word vision, leadership and vision together, they just think, oh, we're going wherever the leader wants to go.
Yeah.
And you're taking it to the level of being able to paint that picture for the employees so that they can see it, because we know the mind works in pictures. That you want to paint that vivid picture so they know where they're going.
Yeah. And they see their role in it. So every day when I come to work, I can go, what I'm doing today is contributing to that. That's going to help everybody, and it's going to help our customer, and I feel good about it. It makes a difference.
The other thing that I shouldn't say always, often in your blog, I noticed that where you put vision, the next point is like communicating that vision.
Yeah.
So when we talk about communication, it's such a broad word. Mm-hmm. What are the key strengths for a leader to be communicative in his world?
Well, there's two facets to that. There's what are the key communication talents for a leader, then what are the key things to being a good communicator out. The key communication talents for a leader is being a great listener and asking awesome questions, being incredibly curious and being an intense listener. Those, from a leadership standpoint, those are the two. Being able to talk is nice. From the other side of communicating to the team, it's impossible to over-communicate. Yeah. You want a clear, consistent message. You might change it slightly, but it's always aligned over and over again. Same basic message in every way you can send it out, through emails, through short videos, all hands, whatever it is. The more times, you've seen it in advertising. You have to see something 7 to 9 times before you remember it. Yeah. CEOs will ask me, when have I've talked about the vision enough. Yeah. So when you get to the point that you're going to get sick to your stomach if you say it one more time, the lowest person in your organization just heard it for the very first time. Oh. Yeah. And you and I know this. We do a lot of work. Every company on the face of the earth has communication problems.
Yes,
they're working, John, you help our company. I go, first of all, you have lots of communication problems. How do you know that? Do you? Yes. Yes. So whether there's 2 people or 200,000, there's going to be a problem.
Yeah. I would walk into a radio station if I was consulting another radio station. People used to ask me, come in and listen to my station, spend a couple of days in town, listen to it, and meet my staff and give me some tips, help me out a little bit. And you walk in and the people inside the building would always say the same thing. we play this commercial too many times. We play this song too many times. You know, we play this song too many times. We hear this commercial too many times. And I'm like, you're listening to this station like 14, 15 hours a day. You know, you're going to hear it a lot. When you start hearing it too much, it's just starting to work for the people out there, you know.
I feel so bad for my team when I'm doing speeches and stuff virtual, because they have to sit through me doing it over and over and over again. And I say, doesn't it get boring? I mean, isn't it killing you? And no, every time we hear it, we hear something different.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, it's the same rough thing, because every business has roughly the same sort of problems: communication, you know, accountability, you know, a few others that everybody has some worries in that area.
Employee engagement. How does a leader create engagement within their team? I keep on saying his. And I mean
his, her, their
his,
team.
her. All right.
Let's just use her for the rest of the day.
All right, that's good.
It's tying the purpose of the organization into the person's values and something that lets them know what they do is more important than just a paycheck. We were talking during the break, an example. I work with a lot of credit unions and banks, and I try to help the CEO communicate the idea of the person at the front that's, you know, at the teller's window. This is not the lowest level job, it's the highest level job. You're the one interacting with the folks, and you're not handing out money, you're helping them secure their financial future, save money to put their kid through college, or buy their first car, or buy their first house. I mean, these are big decisions, and you play a role in that. So you don't go home and I just cash checks. No, you play a major role in people's financial future. And you can look into many organizations, and I'll tell you a really quick story. And I worked for a company that made ball bearings and things like that, and made gearboxes.
Okay.
Not a very sexy business. And they had bought a company that built helicopter gearboxes. And after they bought it, they brought everybody in a hangar, and they said, one of our top clients is going to come in and talk to us about our helicopter gearboxes. One of the senior military guys, I won't say Joint Chiefs of Staff, but somebody really high level, walks up there, stands behind the podium, looks at everybody and says, you guys do helicopters, gearboxes for Black Hawk helicopters. Both of my sons fly Black Hawk helicopters in Iraq. Don't kill my boys. Wow. I mean, I still get
I did too.
Everyone there said, we don't build gearboxes, we bring U.S. soldiers home safe to their families. Changed everything. Medtronics, who makes pacemakers.
Yes, yep. I've
know,
worked with them.
Yep. And what do?
Yeah.
They bring somebody in that's alive, or someone's kid, and says, my mom or my dad is alive because you guys made a pacemaker. And if you can't come up with something that strong, then maybe your organization does something really important. So we make envelopes, although envelopes can be meaningful. So I don't feel that excited. Oh, but we all walk in the breast cancer walk, or we help build a wing on the children's hospital.
So the three things that drive engagement is immediate supervisor, belief in senior leadership, and pride in your organization.
There you go.
So you start driving those three things. That's interesting. Yeah. When you were talking about the ball bearing company, it just brought to my mind a great conversation I had with the CEO and the CFO of a hospital in this region. I won't mention them, but one of the things that I said to them is, we've got to train all your people, not just the leadership. And they're like, why? Well, my parents had both. My dad had passed away. My mom was in a hospital. But you know who the people that get the least amount of training but have the most impact on the family are the CNAs and the people that come in and clean the room, and they need to feel like I have a purpose here, And so thankfully the hospital trained all of those individuals. But watching those people blossom and that somebody cared about me, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a specialist. I'm a person that comes in and cleans the bedding, You said point of customer relations. That's the person that spends the most time with that person,
Well, and again, we've got 4 minutes left. Let me share another idea that I think your listeners will like around business and leadership. A thing called moments of truth. Have you ever heard of this?
Yep.
Okay, years ago, Jan Carlson was brought in as a turnaround CEO at Scandinavian Air Systems. They were in serious trouble, about to go bankrupt, and he looked at it and said, we're going to have to rebuild this whole company. And if we're going to do it, we might as well build it on the back of the very best customers, which in the airline industry would be someone that I used to be, 210 days a year on the road. Yeah, constantly traveling, buying tickets at the last minute. Anyways, they backed up and said, okay, let's then look at, with that target customer, we're not going to be everything to everybody, as you said, target customer, what are all the touch points? From when they get on our website and they make a reservation, to they get their ticket, to they're in the waiting room, all the way to when they hopefully get their luggage, when they get to the next place. And then let's back up from all those touch points and look at the 3 or 4 or 5 moments of truth, stuff that make or break the relationship. Mm-hmm. So I always use restaurants as an example, and Spurrier's wouldn't be because they nail all 4. Yeah. But there are 4 things, 4 moments of truth that pretty much every restaurant on the face of the earth has to have. Do you want to do a quiz on this? Or do you want me to tell you?
Tell me.
Good service.
Okay.
Good food. Reasonable prices. Cleanliness.
Okay.
That's it.
That's it.
If you don't nail those 4, it doesn't matter how many football helmets you have on the wall. If I go to any restaurant, and they do it great here, but someplace else, the food's great, the service is great, price is reasonable, but the bathroom is dirty, I'm not going back. Mm-hmm. So every business, this is critical, has a couple of key moments of truth. Handful of things that make or break the relationship. You've got to be flawless in those. There's a place to train. And I'll give you an example. Here at Spurrier's, I work with Freddie on the front hostess and host place. And the last time, I just told the chef when I was in here, I timed it when I walked in. It was under 30, it was 11 seconds before they greeted me. When I went to get a drink, it was about 20 seconds before they greeted me. In some places, it would be 4 or 5 minutes. Yeah. They've exceeded my expectation. And that's one of the moments of truth. What's your greeting? How are you treated when you come in? That's service. So what I would challenge your listeners is, what are the moments of truth for your business? What are the 3 or 4 or 5 things that have to be flaws? Then also remember, you have moments of truth internally. Things we have to do for each other. If the server doesn't talk to the chef and they don't get the right order, that's a moment of truth for them. Just a big, big idea that can change a lot of businesses. Had to run down that road, I apologize.
I love that idea, the moment of truth. I'm thinking, what is the moment of truth in Evan's life? John, I thank you very much.
Oh, it's my honor. It's my pleasure.
I absolutely have enjoyed the last 2 weeks having you here. Just putting this out for people to be able to go back and watch over and over and over again. Young man that I highly admire. I don't know if you know him, Matt Rocco. He made a comment, of two men that I highly admire. He's obviously a big fan of yours and a fan of mine. Matt is one of my favorite young men that works in the business world. People like that go in like a sponge and just soak up every word that you say. I love those type of folks.
Well, don't forget, we learn this from other people like Dale Carnegie and Tom Peters.
Yeah.
So very few of these ideas are mine.
No, they're shared from life experiences and other people that have made a difference in our lives. So
right.
I appreciate you being here. I hope we get to do this again down the road, and I'm going to be a fan of yours and follow your travels to Vietnam and every place else that you'll be going over the next few months. So appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This has been MotivationU the podcast, coming to you live from Spurrier's Gridiron Grill at Celebration Point inside the coach's podcast room. Yeah, right here. Our producer, Evan Miller. Thank you, Evan. Appreciate you very much. You've been a big help to the show, and I always like to see that smile on your face, man. Thank you. Have a great day.